So, as you remember, in the very beginning of our FunC programming journey, I quickly noted that there's a blueprint. So, blueprint is cool. It's actually very cool. And in our previous chapter, we did our own custom setup in which we're working now. But it's very likely that because Blueprint is developing very quickly, you're going to use Blueprint very often to generate your new contract projects. And we actually want to prepare our current custom setup to be so ready so that you understand once you use this command npm create ton, you actually get a project where you can get around. So basically, there's two things that we could potentially just delegate to the blueprint. And this would be a compilation. We want to delegate it to the blueprint. And we would want to delegate the deploy also to the blueprint. So for the compilation, because you don't want to take care of all these versions, and you don't you want to have your compiler to be maintained by someone else usually. And for the deploy, Blueprint has amazing features to be compatible with multiple wallets. We're just showing QR code, but they have awesome features of actually requesting transactions from inside of your terminal. So what we're going to do now before we deploy this contract to the network, we're going to kind of get rid of the very custom stuff. So it was a good journey. You understood how the compilation works in depth. You understood how deploy works in depth. But now let's do it Blueprint way. So once you're using npm create ton, you're actually you will get a project that is like pretty much the same as you're going to have at the end of next lesson. So at the end of this chapter, what we achieve with you. So first of all, let's delegate the compilation process to Blueprint. And how are we going to do this? So basically, first let's go to package.json and simply remove everything except the script test, and we don't even do compile now. So we just keep one script for the testing. So if you will do yarn test, it will be actually running tests on the contract without precompiling it. So, and we need to fix that. So for this, we're going to install Blueprint. Awesome. Finally, we are going to use some great tools like Blueprint. So yeah, we installed Blueprint. And now we are going to get back to tests because we need to somehow do compilation now here. So one thing that we need to do is we need to import compile from the Blueprint. So compile is the function that we're going to use to actually compile our contract. And the second thing, you need to implement a before all hook. So you want to compile your contract before all the other tests are done. And the third one, you would need to update the before each to use the code cell provided by before all. So here in before all, we are going to use the function compile, and also we are going to get rid of this part. We have to do code cell here, so let code cell, let it be type cell. We also so now that our code cell is actually doing compile, but it's not going to work just yet. We will need to actually do some more thing. We will need to provide a config for this compiler. So you would need to create another file here in the wrappers. So you would create a file, main contract, compile ts. And inside of this contract, you would need to put the following code. So you import the type compiler config, and in this compiler config, you actually provide targets. So you just define where is the contract, what the file name is for this contract. So now, once here in test, you can just provide the kind of like the title of this file, so the compiler knows where to search for the config of this of its compilation. So at this point, we can just remove the compile script. That's it. And now the second step, big step, is to delegate the deployment process to the Blueprint. So we need to update our deploy script so it would use Blueprint superpowers. So we're going to use our actually wrapper to create the contract from config. So it's going to be similar way like we do it here in the testing. So our wrappers are going to give us a good service. So Blueprint is bringing amazing feature for deployment, like asking the transaction, like I said, and it's very helpful once you develop a lot of iterations, and this is going to be very useful for you. But we will need to update our wrapper with one more method, and we do it right after create from config, and we're going to call it send deploy. So basically, this is going to be just a method that is sending. We're going to use it properly, but for now, it's just sending an empty body like this. So as you remember, deploying is always sending an initial data encode with the predetermined address. So we want to delegate the composing of all the initial state and this calculating the address. We want to actually delegate it to Blueprint. So we would get away from the very low-level abstracts at this point, because you already are doing good. You understand how this whole thing works under the hood. So let's go to the deploy script, and we're going to just pretty much remove everything, because we are going to create a completely new style. So first of all, if some scripts you want to be runnable from Blueprint command line, you would always need to export function run, because this is the function Blueprint is looking for, and it is going to provide it with a network provider. So network provider is also given us by the Blueprint, and it will introduce a lot of like this cool stuff with wallets and very helpful stuff. So what we do is we create a new contract from config, and here we actually specify the initial value for the of the counter, and here we will specify addresses. So I'm going to specify my actual mainnet address. So this contract I'm going to deploy directly to the mainnet, but you will see that Blueprint is giving you very cool ways to choose between mainnet and testnet and different deploy wallets. So we would actually do this code here. We could also do this like const code cell and provide it here. It would be just the same and more clean code. And then we would open this contract with provider, and then we would actually send deploy with a certain amount, and we would actually see how it's going to work with Blueprint. So we just do very simple stuff like we did in testing. So we create a contract from config. We need to open it. So opening will just simply make your contract ready for deploying. And at some point with this provider, you will need to wait for the deploy on this address, and you will see in console log how it happens. One important thing is that we're using this address function to actually parse the string wallet address into the actual address type. So this is very helpful once you know just the address of your wallet. At this point, we are ready to go to the command line. And important thing that you need to remember is how you're going to use Blueprint. You do yarn blueprint run. And this awesome feature is actually asking you for scripts, which scripts to run. It is looking into folder scripts by default, and it is offering you script deploy or on-chain test. We're not going to do any on-chain tests for now. And basically, let me run it again. Great. So now you could choose on which of the mainnet or testnet to deploy it. So I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to deploy it to mainnet because this is something that we didn't do before. We didn't do deploy to the mainnet. And I'm going to do this with the help of TonHub Wallet. So now the code is actually asking me to authorize my TonHub Wallet for confirming transactions. So I will need to scan the QR code only once. And then on every deploy or on any transactions that Blueprint want me to do, it will just request a transaction from inside of my wallet. So I can only simply click, yes, confirming transaction. So let me scan and authorize my wallet for my terminal to actually request my transactions. So I'm scanning the QR code. It is opening my TonHub application. And yes, I authorized it. And now it's going to ask, yes, it asked me for a transaction just to confirm. You see, I'm not scanning anything. So now TonHub is simply able to ask me for transactions from my local setup. But I'm going to just confirm it because I can also not confirm it and transaction is not going to happen. So, but I actually confirmed it. And this means that the contract is now getting deployed. So I'm scanning the QR code. It is asking my TonHub to actually authorize the local setup. And now it is asking me for a transaction to confirm. So I don't need to scan the second time. I'm simply confirming the transaction and awaiting. So the transaction is sent. So now we are waiting for the contract deployment. Great. So the contract is deployed. We get its address, and now we can view it in the Explorer. We can view it in the Explorer, and here we can see that the transaction we just did just simply got bounced because obviously in our code, if you don't have any operation code, it will be bounced. And in deploy, here in deploy, we actually don't here in the send deploy. So what we could do potentially on this deploy, it would be like store uint. It would be 32 bits and it would be, let's say 2. So this would be considered as a deposit transaction as well. But we didn't do it and it got bounced, but it's okay. So basically, at this point, we could see the contract on the mainnet. We see that this contract is working. And I really want to congratulate you with the fact that you have your own contract deployed to the mainnet. And in the next lesson, we are going to do a cool thing. We are going to verify the code of your contract. So anybody else could see that your contract has a certain logic. So when people send money to your contract, they would know exactly what happens there. Because right now, if you look at the contract, you can only see bytecode and disassembled code, for example. But you see, it says unverified contract. And we will learn how to do it so the contract is actually verified. See you soon.